Dagger of Denghua. You've got excellent taste, I'll give you that. But I can't give you that. Give it back.
If you insist.
What?
What the fuck is this? This is garbage.
It's beautiful.
I do not acknowledge this movie. Kung Fu Panda 4 was beyond a disappointment. I recently decided to watch this movie because I'm a big fan of the first to the third movie. We see Po grow with confidence, accepting that he's capable of being the Dragon Warrior, to then accepting his childhood traumas to find his inner own peace, and as a character to see that he can bring down the killers of his parents, and then finally mastering all aspects of himself and his own skills and becoming even a master of Chi. His character relatively went full circle while taking up the mantle of Master Oogway's position, and now we must foster the minds of the warriors of old and new. One of the major reasons why his story was able to be told so well was because of the villains he had to face along the way. Shen, the murderous peacock that feared the foretelling of his defeat, decides to kill all the pandas, including, or at least is perceived, both of Po's parents. Kai, the all-powerful chi-stealing force of nature that forced Po to accept his own new position as the master and leader to help foster the growth of all his friends and the future warriors. And of course, the guy who passed these themes to the forefront while being the ultimate foil to Po's character, Tai Lung. Not only were other characters disrespected, but the character that got the biggest L in this film, in my personal opinion, is Tai Lung. With a film being hyped around the fact that all the original villains are supposed to return, I expected a story that would warrant their return, making it a true conclusion to the end of the original trilogy, while pushing Po and the new Dragon Warrior to a new story that can be added upon, since it seemed like that they had plans for 2 more films. Tai Lung, out of all the villains, seemed to have a greater capacity for redemption, for even he seemed to hesitate against Shifu in the first film, despite his warranted rage. However, not only did the 4th film turn him into a bobblehead of quote-unquote ironic comedy relief.
Is that how I sound? I don't sound like that, do I? Give him a left, a right, uppercut.
Which one are you rooting for?
I'm not sure. This is all very confusing.
But they never made him accepting Po be satisfying in any degree, so I decided to write Tai Lung's redemption arc for them. Not only that, I rewrote the entire aspects of the film to help compensate for that film's story.
Known from the highest mountain to the lowest valley, the Tai Lung lives, and no one will stand in his way. Not even the great Dragon Warrior.
First of all, scrap this. Scrap all of this. This is stupid. For those who haven't seen the film, the first few seconds of the film we are reintroduced to Midlung, who is just the main villain, the chameleon, using her shapeshifting powers to draw Po out to find her. From this point, I realized for me, to create a redemption for my boy Tai Lung, the entire main villain needs to be reworked. The main villain is the chameleon, a small weird lizard lady who has the ability to physically change to any character she wishes. Her ultimate goal is to take over the Valley of Peace and beyond in the name of revenge, because she always wanted to learn Kung Fu but was rejected by every master because... wait, what? Because of her size?
That's stupid. You're stupid. Stop being stupid.
Word? That can't be real. So we just saying fuck Mantis then? He's literally a damn insect. How are you too small? Because of that, she decided to become a master of sorcery. She used those skills to open the spirit realm and plans to steal the kung fu from masters in the spirit realm. First of all, I can't bring back Tai Lung in these garbage conditions.
No!
How dare you use his face at all? First off, where did sorcery come from? What do you think this is, Aladdin? You are not Jafar, but I can see where you get your drip from though. I can see the inspiration. Why not just make the chameleon an implied master or manipulator of chi? Hear me out for this. At the end of Kung Fu Panda 3, the pandas go back to the Valley of Peace with Po, and it's implied that they all get involved in Kung Fu training, which forces me to assume that they all continued to train in the use of chi as well, with Po to guide them since he is a master of chi now. So why not just make it that the chameleon actually trained at the Valley of Peace and learned how to manipulate chi herself? This is how I would write this. Maybe after a few years after the defeat of Kai, let's say 2 to 3 years, maybe a max of 5, the chameleon was actually a fan of Po, and actually has been watching him in the background of his story for years by camouflaging in the background by the changing of her colors. And by the 3rd movie, she gains the courage to ask Po about being trained, or she asks Shifu, or she asks one of the members of the Furious 5, whatever the case may be. Now, instead of saying this stupid thing that she got rejected because of her size when my boy Mantis is literally right there. Instead, she had a low affinity for physical fighting, but has a strong affinity to manipulate chi, to the point that she's able to shapeshift her body with chi instead of just changing colors, furthering the fact that chi is just a makeup of oneself and can be manipulated. Therefore, how about we make her goal to become a member of the Furious Five, since it seems more and more often the team is separated away from the palace, leaving it fairly defenseless outside of Shifu. Then the person who is doing the selection was Tigress, Shifu, and Po. Tigress and Shifu at first picks the chameleon, but Po, like Oogway did to Tai Lung, rejects their decision because he thinks she isn't ready to protect others. That was my rough idea because I wanted to avoid changing too much of the entire film, but I think this is already leagues better compared to just being told she's too damn short and tiny to throw some damn kung fu kicks. Which brings me to this. The revival of Tai Lung and the other villain should be part of the reasons why the chameleon is a viable threat for the fourth movie and the motivation setting Tai Lung on his path of redemption. First off, remember the ending of Kung Fu Panda 3 when Kai explodes and all the chi amulets disbanded. Also, don't forget the somewhat confirmed theory that Tai Lung's chi was also taken by Kai in the third movie. Well, let's try this. In a desperate attempt to increase her strength to prove herself to Po and the others, the chameleon uses her chi abilities and reforms Kai from defeat, rebuilding his spirit, because it doesn't make sense that the bastard that was already a spirit when Po defeats him in the last movie and he explodes, but in the fourth movie he comes back still in his spirit form so that he can get his kung fu taken.
That's stupid.
When she reforms him, they ally with each other since Kai no longer has his original chi amulet, so he shows her how to open the spirit realm. She brings back both Tai Lung and Shen since they were Po's greatest enemies and attempts to plead with them so that she can learn from them. Knowing that that might not be possible, she, instead of her just stealing their kung fu, just make it that she was able to consume their spirit and then add it to her own. That way she can get their kung fu but gains the drawbacks of it as well. So she consumes Kai and Shen's spirit but only gains a portion of Tai Lung's spirit, which weakens him, but he was able to escape from the chameleon and is forced to seek help from Po. He finds Po, maybe after a mission or at the palace, and tells him about the chameleon, and Po brings in Shifu and Tigress to deal with the issue. This way, we can introduce some interactions between the main characters that were affected by Tai Lung. I feel like the goal of this is for Tai Lung to fully understand the reasons why he wasn't choosing to be the Dragon Warrior, come to terms with his upbringing with Shifu, challenging Tigress on her lack of interest to no longer grow beyond the Furious Five, and coming to terms that Po was the right choice from the beginning. While at the same time, there can be somewhat of a subplot that this journey will be the reasons why Shifu and Tai Lung can find inner peace, because it is a running plot point that Shifu never found inner peace. It's been said in the first movie, in the second movie, and Shifu is constantly meditating about inner peace, but he's never really seemed to found it. Even in the second movie, it seems to have confirmed that he was surprised that Po was able to find inner peace in the first place. While in his weakened state, Tai Lung is forced to work with all three of them in order to have him survive his journey back to the chameleon. Meanwhile, the chameleon's absorption of Kai's and Shen's spirits has started to corrupt her and has the sudden conviction to absorb the chi of every master in the spirit realm and the mortal realm, especially Po's and Tai Lung's. So then, there could be a cool sequence where she opens the spirit realm door and instead of just pulling the masters and villains out one by one, have her take them all out at once, including Oogway, because keep in mind, Oogway was back in the spirit realm after the third movie. She defeats them in one massive bout and takes all of their chi and spirits all at once. In Tai Lung's journey with Po and Tigress, you could have him talk about how he felt about being beaten and taken by Kai in the third movie, emphasizing on how he felt like his strength and will was robbed from him and he couldn't do anything about it. We could have a conversation between him and Tigress comparing their upbringings with Shifu, showing that he was able to see the loving side of Shifu and Tigress was the broken side of him, pushing to a point where they could come to a consensus that Shifu is to blame. Ho could be the one that he points out why the reasons why Tigress stayed and why Tai Lung decided to revolt against Shifu, and comparing that their situations are maybe similar but not exactly the same, but they don't need to go against Shifu for those reasons. As they progress, they can begin to work together, and when they reach the chameleon, it could be one of the most heart-rending conflicts, and they decide to work together in the fight against the chameleon. In the final fight, we have the combined strength of all of our four main characters, but the chameleon is significantly stronger now and has the ability to not only shape her body, but the ability to shift the perception in others' minds or maybe even changing the landscape around her. Tai Lung could be facing off against the chameleon and has been shown to be fighting her shaped like him, trying to convince him to betray the team and join her on her side to gain the strength that he ever wanted so that he can actually prove to them that he truly was supposed to be the right Dragon Warrior warrior and show that he is worthy of being able to defeat anyone he wishes to defeat. But then a point could be made that he never wants to be trapped in his mind ever again and doesn't wish for his strength to be stolen ever again. Hell, we could even add a moment in time after the chameleon tries to use her mind tricks against Tai Lung. She even attempts to try and kill Shifu, but Tai Lung and or Tigress is able to save him, and he decides to rebuild his relationship with the both of them as they try to defeat the chameleon together with Po. This could even be the first Kung Fu Panda villain that doesn't even get killed off at the end of the film. This could be a really turning point because it shows that the chameleon wasn't truly a villainous character, but a character that was going on a different path, similar to Po and Tai Lung when they were in the beginning of the first movie. Even in this rewrite, Shifu doesn't even need to be in the majority of the film. It could be a moment where it's at the end of the film and Tai Lung decides to go talk to Shifu before he returns back to the spirit realm. Or we could have a true conversation between Tai Lung and Oogway, a conversation where Tai Lung even apologizes to Oogway for how he reacted against him and Shifu in the first film, and accepts that he was never ready to be the Dragon Warrior, and passes on that same sentiment back to Po and apologizes for fighting him in the first film and shows his respect to him. You could have even a direct moment in the fight between Tai Lung and the chameleon and spirits are being released. Kai and Shen could be freed, and Tai Lung even tries to convince them to fight against the chameleon, and at the end of the film we could have all three villains accept that Po was a true warrior and a true fighter and a true defender of the Valley of Peace, and accept that their defeat was warranted against him. There was a lot of other things I wanted to change in this movie that really bothered me, to add more depth to the story and to not disrespect the story that was told from the other three movies, but I felt like that the fourth film was robbed of all the potential growth that they could have given to Tai Lung, to Po, to even Tigress. I've seen a lot of comments and conversations with different people on different videos saying that, oh, Tigress should have just been the next Dragon Warrior if they wanted to add another Dragon Warrior to the film, and I completely agree, because Tigress out of all the other characters has a lot more depth compared to the other Furious 5, but still hasn't really resolved a lot of those issues that she had to deal with, and she was only doing the things that she needed to do to help Po throughout the story, because there still needed to be plot points for Tigress that needed to add to the depth of her character that were kind of tossed out or just never really truly expanded upon from the first to the third film. And I feel like that her being the next Dragon Warrior would have been a lot more appropriate compared to a new character who was just seems to be shoe-in to be the new Dragon Warrior. That's just my general critiques against the other parts of the film. I wanted to just talk about Tai Lung's story, and I felt like his character was diminished way too much in the film, and I wanted to see if I can add a little bit more growth to his character at the end of that film if it was to be written that way. And that's not even the perfect way of doing it. This was just me, a rough idea that I made up in terms of rewatching the film and just trying to figure out where it could have been made and what simple changes that could have been made to just push Tai Lung's character to a further down to a better path. But yeah, that was a very rough idea on how I would write the redemption arc for Tai Lung. I feel like I could have added a little bit more, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to change too much of the film, because if it was up to me, I would have changed the entirety of the film, what was the main plot, how Po was acting, the time frame between the first three films to the fourth films. There was a lot of things I would have changed, but I wanted to give like a very simple idea. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave any comments and reviews on how things you would have changed the Kung Fu Panda 4 film. It's your boy Kadukun. Peace out, and see you guys in the next video.
Handle business, don't play. On point when it comes to the anime. Jack and Daxter, ayy, let's go. The ultimate heroes, don't stop, we on the road. Kadukun. Yeah, welcome to the channel.